Welcome and thanks for tuning in. I'm Lynn Berger, host of Lynn Berger Interviews Remarkable People. And today I have the privilege of speaking with Louise Mirrer, President and CEO of the New York Historical, during which time the institution has reinvigorated its commitment to a greater public understanding of history and its relevance today, as well as to the support, encouragement of historical scholarship and the education of young people. Her work has benefited us all. Louise, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Great to meet you. So take us back. As a young child, did you know what you wanted to do?
I actually wanted to be a writer or sing and dance in musical theater.
Oh.
So I wanted to do something creative, so I've landed doing something creative.
Okay, so take us back and tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today, your education and such.
So, well, I evolved away from the idea of being in musical theater. I continued to love to write, and I got very, very interested in history and literature when I was in high school and then again in college. And I decided, when it came time to graduate from college, I decided that I wanted to go on for a PhD and really end up teaching at a university, college or a university. I took a little detour and I did my first graduate degree at Cambridge University in England. I had been studying literature and history. I focused my attention as an undergraduate student on the medieval period. I was fascinated. This was the age of the sort of proto-feminist. I was fascinated by the cult of the Virgin Mary, and so I really focused on medieval literature and history. And but I decided when I went to Cambridge that this was also the age of theoretical generative linguistics, Noam Chomsky, and great discoveries being made about how language happens. So I did a degree at Cambridge in linguistics, which I enjoyed very much, but I returned to history and literature and went to Stanford to do my PhD. When I finished graduate school, I indeed started to teach at a university, and I continued to do that for a while and was quite happy.
Good. How long did that go on for, your teaching?
Most of my career. I had a lucky break. I was a department chair at the University of Minnesota. I'm a New Yorker. I'm a fourth generation New Yorker, and I never really wanted to leave New York. But I did my graduate work in California, and I had taught at UCLA, but I really felt that my North Star was New York City. But I had great opportunity to go to the University of Minnesota, and the job offer got better and better, and eventually I accepted it. And while I was there as a department chair, this was sort of the time of the tokens. There were a lot of white men who were in administrative positions, and the university was under a lot of pressure to get more diversity, and at the time diversity meant having a couple of women in the central administration. So
we've come a long way, right?
Yeah, we have come a long way. So I over the course of one summer, I went from being a department chair to being vice provost for arts, sciences, and engineering.
Yeah, that's great.
And in that job, I never met an engineer before, and I discovered that I was really fascinated. I mean, I love the focus on precision, and I just realized that actually, I'd already written a few books and a lot of articles, and I thought, if no one ever hears from me again on the medieval world, I mean, they're not going to be bereft.
You did enough at that point.
I did enough, but I really quite enjoyed promoting other people's best work.
Oh, nice.
I just really got much more pleasure out of helping people to really do their best. Then at that point, I felt that was more fun, more enjoyable for me, more rewarding.
And then what position did you take after that?
So, you know, I always had in mind that I really did want to be back in New York City, and I was recruited for the job, essentially the job of provost. It was called Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs at the City University of New York. And that was a great opportunity. Brought me back to New York City, which I loved, and it really, you know, really helped me to understand how important University of Minnesota is a public university, and you know, it gets most things right. It's really a terrific place, but CUNY is really special. CUNY really changes lives. It changes everyone's life. It just is. It does what it's been doing since, you know, it was invented. It moves people into the middle class. It gives opportunities to all kinds of people, and it's really, you know, it just promotes a kind of environment educationally in the city that I think is unparalleled. And while I was at CUNY, I got to know some people who, one in particular, who went on the board of the New York Historical. They were looking for new leadership, and I you know, really, really felt very lucky that they chose me.
Well, I think they made the right choice. So what was it about the New York Historical that really got you so interested in it?
So my mother was a historian, and she went to Columbia to do graduate work in the 40s. And she actually did research in the library of the New York Historical. So I knew it had a great library. I didn't know much about the museum part of it, but I knew something about the bones of the institution. It also would be a challenge. At the time, the New York Historical was sort of out of its darkest financial hour, but it wasn't in great shape. I mean, it needed a lot of work, and I'd learned a lot at CUNY about building an institution, and so it seemed like a place that I could really apply what I'd learned. Something else is that, you know, I'm an academic. I have a PhD. I write. I, you know, do research. The New York Historical has a great museum, has great collections, but is essentially a very scholarly institution. So it felt like it wasn't a university, but it was pretty close.
I would say so. You can get quite educated there, right? So you accomplished a lot since you've been there. And one of the things, before we get to your accomplishments there, I'd love to talk a little bit about that name change, because even like when I speak about it, I find myself saying New York Historical Society. So tell us a little bit about how that happened.
So the New York Historical Society was established in 1804 by 11 visionary men that all lived through the American Revolution. And they recognized at a time when New York was hardly what it would become. I mean, you know, 8 years of occupation during the American Revolution. New York had been burned to the ground twice. It was not the city that it was going to become. But these men were really visionary, and they recognized that unless you collect and preserve around things that happened, in their case, the American Revolution, future generations will have no idea what the past was all about. It will turn, as they said, to dust and nothing more than dust and speculation. But we were founded, I mean, they were visionary, and they deserved so much credit for seeing things. I mean, this was a time when the great universities, like what was then called the College of New Jersey or King's College, Columbia University, and others, I mean, all they thought about was antiquity, the classics. So, I mean, these men to say, no, American things are important, because no college or university was focusing on anything American at the time. So they were truly visionary, but at the same time they were elites. And society really, it was a membership organization, and membership was really confined to those people whose names are on streets in Lower Manhattan. And, you know, over time, and certainly, you know, over the last couple of decades, we don't feel that way. That's not our outlook, that we're a closed society. And though, you know, society can mean many things, for most people, you know, it means you have to sort of be a member of the club. So we just felt it doesn't really reflect who we are. And we spent a lot of time thinking about it and eventually just decided, just drop it.
So one thing I really wanted to speak about is that your responsibility you feel to educate young people and the programs that you have to instill values and history among the younger generation, which is so important, especially today. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was, I would say, of all the things, all the expectations of me when I started my job,
Right.
the chief one was to bring to bring children, students really, to the institution. There had been some, but very few, not very many. It was not a sort of mainstay of the New York Historical at the time. And there was a real recognition on the part of our trustees that American history is important, civic education is important, and it's not being done terribly well in the schools. And therefore, there was a place for this institution to bring young people. We have amazing documents in our collection. We have the authorization for the purchase, for the Louisiana Purchase, signed by Bonaparte with a wine stain in the corner. But we have, you know, several original Declaration of Independence in our collection. And we have Emancipation Proclamation, 13th Amendment, you know, signed by Lincoln. Lincoln he didn't have to sign the 13th Amendment, wasn't customary, but he signed it because it was so important. And to have a young student have the advantage of seeing, of being up, no matter what anyone says about, you know, videos and screen time and everything, young people, when they're up close and personal with Lincoln's signature, he actually took his pen and touched that paper. It is really, it's an extraordinary experience for them. And so, you know, we decided that we would become essentially an adjunct to the public schools in history education. And we've been very successful. We've, over time, developed even a residency program for 6th graders.
Oh, that's great.
And it's been, you know, it's really been very rewarding to see. I mean, we had a 12-year-old student in our Academy for American Democracy. It's a week-long program. They come every day. They learn about the evolution of democracy beginning in ancient Athens. They, you know, wear their togas. They debate.
Oh, that's fun.
They vote. I mean, they do all sorts of things. It's fun and interesting. And one 12-year-old said to me when I was hanging out around one of their gatherings, he said, you know, I never knew what democracy was, but now I can explain it to other people.
That's fantastic.
So, you know, it's really extraordinary. I mean, they really do understand, and they're 12 years old. It's going to be a few years before they can vote, but I do think these young people have learned how precious democracy is, how many struggles there were to preserve it and improve upon it.
So when you have a new visitor come to the museum, what is your goal for them as someone that's never walked in the building?
Well, that's a great question. So every visitor should be touched by what they see. I mean, we should be successful in mounting exhibitions and doing public programs that touch people so that they feel that there is some connection between them and whatever they've seen or heard. And that is extremely important. And you can't predict what it's going to be, but you do make a selection when you're mounting an exhibition. And you do, you know, try to choose things that among them something is really going to touch that person. I mean, there are some, you know, obvious examples. We did a Norman Rockwell exhibition around an anniversary for World War I and had gas. We borrowed that extraordinary painting. And, you know, you could see people looking at these soldiers who are blinded by the gas. I mean, they were really touched. They understood what war was, the horrors of war, the horrors of World War I. And I like to think, in the best of circumstances, those visitors really understood something about World War I that made them think differently about their own present time. But we really hope that visitors will feel a connection with their experience inside the museum, and that it will change their lives. They'll be activated to do things. You know, we can't predict or prescribe what that is, but they'll be activated.
And you never know what touches each person.
No, that's why you need, I mean, our exhibitions are really saturated with examples. So you don't know what it's going to be, and often it's something that, you know, really surprises you.
Yeah, no, I think that it's very interesting because you just never know. But if you see a face like, oh, or something hits someone. Yeah.
When you see someone light up, or, you know, often I walk around the galleries. Most people visit museums in pairs. Not a lot of people visit. I mean, there are people who visit themselves, but most people visit with a friend or a relative. And, you know, you eavesdrop on conversations, and you really do see, I mean, sometimes it's just a memory that it provokes. And a grandparent will start telling a grandchild about,
sweet.
oh, you know, when I was. So that's really, I mean, you want to start conversations. That's what you want to do.
Okay, and I think you do that. So it's a
try.
fabulous place. So getting back to as a career counselor, I'm curious what you would say makes a great executive director, a CEO of a museum. What qualities and characteristics?
You know, one of the most enjoyable experiences I have, every summer we have interns, and I talk with the interns. So I just actually had this experience yesterday talking with the interns, and, you know, one of them asked me, you know, what qualities I thought were important for leadership more generally. And I said, listening to smart people. You know? And I think people always say to me, well, where did you get that idea from? And I say, somebody gave it to me.
Oh, you're very honest.
That my strength, if I can sound a little arrogant.
Yes, please, I would like
my
that.
strength is to listen to people and to recognize that it doesn't matter where the idea came from. And that the more you surround yourself with smart and creative people, and the more you listen to them and let them know that you actually want to hear their ideas, the better you'll be as a leader, I think, of any entity. But, you know, I mean, it is a challenge to run a museum. It's you need to do a lot of fundraising. So another way of talking about that is saying, what makes you successful is a real appetite for making new friends, and you try to make as many new friends as possible.
Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, the listening is more apparent to me, but when you said make a lot of new friends, that struck.
You never know. You know, my husband is a sociologist, and one of his former colleagues wrote a book years ago now. It's called The Strength of Weak Ties. And I always think about that book.
Yes.
A lot of statistics, but, you know, everyone thinks if only I knew the CEO of that corporation, I could get a job there.
Exactly.
But statistically, it's much more likely that you're at a cocktail party and have a conversation with someone, and out of the blue, they call you and say, by the way, you know, I was really intrigued by what you said, and there's this position opening up in my, you know, whatever department, and I think you'd be good for it. I mean, that is, and, you know, I think you have to make a lot of new friends, because you never know where the opportunity is going to come from, where the advice is going to come from. where support is going to come from. You just don't know. So you keep making friends.
I love it because I tell people in job search, like you said, I don't know anyone. They'll say, yes, they might not know the CEO of
Right.
XYZ, but you just never know where it's going to come from. And it's
right.
usually the weaker, if you had to label it, it was the weaker ties.
Right.
Exactly. I love that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people don't think that that's the case, but it really is.
It really, you have proof and I have proof, so I guess it's
Yeah,
right.
right.
So if I was to ask you, what are you most proud of that since you've been, I know you've done so many things, but at the museum, but is there anything at the New York Historical that you really...
Well, I think what I'm most proud of, I would have to say, is that, we had, we've gone through a lot of sort of ways of talking about ourselves, but for a long period of time, our kind of bywords were history matters. And I do think that we have had an impact on making history matter for many, many more people. As a result of the work we do. Not just in New York City, but we have lots and lots of online programs and curricula that we distribute around. And I'm very, very proud that we have really made a difference in terms of how people perceive the importance of history, because it really does matter. You have to know on whose shoulders do you stand.
Now more than ever.
Yeah.
Because the lack of history knowledge.
Right, for sure.
Yes, does
For sure.
come into
For
play.
sure.
So can you give us a little taste of what's coming up for the museum? You have a big anniversary, right?
Well, we have the 250th anniversary of the United States, and we are just pulling out all stops, apart from the fact that our brand new Tangwing for American Democracy will be finished in 2026. But we have a whole host of exhibitions of very important documents from the revolutionary period that really help people understand what led to the revolution and what it was really all about. We have art exhibitions on democracy that invite community members to join with old masters, and we do have an exhibition on old masters and New Amsterdam as well. So there's a lot.
And give us a little sense of that timing.
Well, right now, if you were to come right away, you would have an opportunity to make a birthday wish for the United States.
Oh.
We're dedicating the glass wall at our entry. We'll give you the sticky note and a pen and 50 words or less. Tell us your birthday wish, and we're compiling them. And archiving them. So we want to hear from people on what their birthday wish is for America on its 250th. But we also will be rolling out, right now we have an important exhibition on the Hollywood Blacklist, but we will be rolling out, beginning in the fall, the exhibition on Americana, and that's coming up fast.
Okay, and I'm sure you're very busy with all that, right?
For sure.
Yeah. And what could we look forward to as far as lectures and programs?
Well, our gala this year is honoring two outstanding people. Robert A. Caro, who is, of course, the great biographer, and Gustavo Dudamel. This will be the first honor that he's receiving in New York, and he will be arriving in 2026 to lead the Philharmonic. So the two of them will be honored at our gala, and that's September 17th. And in terms of our programming, we're focusing a lot of attention on the 250th. Doris Kearns Goodwin will be with us. We just had Rick Atkinson, but he'll be back, and many, many other great historians and public figures will be with us this year.
Well, your job sounds fascinating. And before we leave, we have a couple of more minutes. I just want to ask you, is there anything that you would give advice to someone? I know you talked a little bit about the interns, but For someone that really does want to do work like what you do, is there any advice for younger people that you can share?
Yeah, well, I think to be as broadly educated as possible, I think that's really important. I think that the kind of range of skills that you use in a museum, I mean, you might think, well, you know, I need to be an art historian, but I mean, we have everything. We have a CFO who, you know, has a background in accounting, and she has a whole department. We have a design department filled with creative people who are great graphic artists who build sets that are, you know, essentially, theater sets.
Yes.
But of course, we have art historians and we have historians as well, and we have a lot of educators. So, you know, I think to the extent that that you you can be open-minded and broadly educated, that's a definite strength. I think also just, you know, for people just to be open to sampling new experiences. So internships are really important. I know they're hard to get, but you know, you might get an internship in an area that you think isn't really germane. That's not what I really want to end up doing. But take it anyway. If that's the opportunity you're being offered, don't feel like that I'm a failure because I didn't get exactly, you know, what I want to do. Because almost for sure that will come in handy.
Absolutely. You finished.
Well, you know,
you're
the expert.
but you're
You're the
the one,
expert.
and you see it in your place, you know, in your institution.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for spending this evening with me. It was an honor. I was looking so forward to meeting you. So enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks once again.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.